Today, we're making pho bao kho, one of my all-time favorite Vietnamese dishes for when the weather starts to get colder. Pho bao kho is a variation of the traditional bao kho or Vietnamese beef stew, but instead of serving it with a banh mi, it's paired with rice noodles that soak up every bit of that delicious broth. It's rich, hearty, deeply satisfying, and undeniably comforting, warming both the body and soul with each bite. So do me a favor and make sure you like, comment, share, and save this video. Alright y'all, remember to wash your hands. Then the first thing we'll do is process our beef. Now, beef shank is my preferred cut of beef for bao kho, as all the fat and connective tissues in the meat make for a soft and meaty cut when stewed. Some alternative cuts of beef that also work here are chuck roast, brisket, or even oxtail. We'll parboil our shank to get rid of all the impurities and scum, and we'll also give this a quick rinse. Then I'm gonna cut my beef shank into about 1.5 to 2 inch pieces. I don't want to cut them too small as it will shrink a bit as it stews. Then I'm gonna get all of the beef shank into a gallon Ziploc bag. And then we're gonna let this marinate with some Bo Kho seasonings, which is just a blend of paprika, star anise, garlic, chili, onion, ginger, and cloves. And you can find this at your local Vietnamese grocery store for just a couple bucks, but I'll also put my affiliate link in the caption for you to purchase it directly on Amazon. To the marinade, I'll add a touch of salt, a splash of soy sauce, and some annatto seed oil for the color. I'll get this mixed up, and I'm gonna let this marinate for at least 1 to 2 hours, but overnight is better. And if you like this recipe, and you wanna learn how to make more of your favorite Vietnamese and Asian dishes, make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications to stay up to date on all my latest posts. While our beef shank is vibing out, we'll move on to our beef tendon. Now, this is an ingredient that is completely optional, but I love the unique texture of the tendon. The texture is a little bit interesting to describe because it's both soft and slightly chewy, as well as crunchy, if that makes sense. First, I'm gonna give the tendon a quick parboil, and we'll rinse the tendon off in some cold water. And this step will help remove some of the beefy odor of the tendon. Now, tendon does take a bit of time to cook through, so I'm going to cook the tendon in some boiling salted water for about an hour before it's added to the beef later. While the tendon is cooking, let's move on and get all of our prep work done. Next up, we'll prep all of our aromatics, and first I have an onion that I'll just cut in half, followed along with a 2-inch nub of ginger that I'll also cut in half. And don't worry about peeling it either. Now I'm gonna get both the onion and ginger into a dry pan on medium-high heat to char, but if you have an open flame on your range, charring it that way is even better. Now to the pan, I'm also going to add a couple of dry star anise and a cinnamon stick to toast off as well. Once that's done, we'll move that to the side, and then I have 3 stalks of lemongrass. I'm going to cut off the tops and bottom and peel out the outer layer if it is extra old looking. And then using the back of my knife, I'm just going to bruise it to help it release more of its flavor later on. And then I'll just cut it in half. Now here are all the aromatics I'm using today, and in addition to everything you've seen, you'll also notice a couple of bay leaves. And to make my life easier, I'm actually going to stuff all of this into a cheesecloth bag to make it easier to fish out later instead of finding each individual piece in my Bo Kho. Once all of the aromatics are in the bag, we'll move that to the side and get the rest of the prep work done. Now, I have a shallot that I'll finely mince, and this is going to be used to saute with our beef later. Then I have some extra large carrots, and I'll just peel and cut these into about 1-inch pieces. And then for our garnishes, I'll start by chopping up some green onions. And then we'll finally chop up some cilantro. Once all of our herbs and veggies have been processed and our tendon has been cooking for about an hour, I'm going to drain it and give that a quick rinse in cold water to make it easier to handle. And then I'm gonna cut the tendon into about 1-inch pieces, and unlike the beef shank that'll shrink when it cooks, beef tendon will actually absorb and expand in the broth. So we wanna cut it a bit smaller than we do the shank so that they come out roughly the same size. Now once we have all the prep work done, it's finally time to cook. Our beef shank has been marinating for quite a while now, so to a big pot, I'm going to add in a couple tablespoons of annatto seed oil, and I'll drop in our minced shallots. We'll saute this for just a couple minutes or until fragrant. We'll add in a tablespoon of minced garlic. And then I'll add in a couple tablespoons of tomato paste and cook out the raw flavor. We'll add in our marinated beef shank and brown that off for just a few minutes. Go ahead and add in your sliced beef tendon. And then we're gonna add in a whole can of Coco Rico. The Coco Rico will add in a really subtle coconut essence and will also help tenderize the beef. If you can't find this, you can also just substitute it with coconut water or even regular tap water. Now, I will say here is where my Bo Kho tends to differ from a lot of other recipes. I prefer mine more soupy as opposed to more stew-like, plus I like eating mine with noodles, so I am going to add in about 5 quarts of water. Now, if your preference is for a true stew-like consistency, I would reduce the amount of water to about 3 to 4 quarts, and then I would also make a cornstarch slurry to add right at the end, just to give it a little bit more viscosity to the Bo Kho. Make the recipe your own though, and adjust it to your own preferences. Now, we'll bring this up to a rolling boil, skim off the impurities, and then we'll reduce the heat to low. I'll season this with 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, a 1-inch nub of rock sugar, 2 tablespoons of MSG, and then I'll toss in our bag of aromatics. And finally, I'll add in another 2 tablespoons of our Bo Kho seasonings. We'll give that a good mix and then let that simmer covered for about an hour to an hour and a half, or until the beef shank is mostly fork tender. And timing will vary depending on how thick you cut your beef shank. Now once it's gotten to that point, I'm gonna fish out our bag of aromatics. And then we'll add in our carrots. I'm gonna let this simmer for another 15 minutes or so, or until the carrots are cooked through and soft. Then right at the end, I'm gonna season this with about 3 tablespoons of fish sauce. Give your Bo Kho a taste test and adjust the seasonings to your preferences. And just like that, you've made Bo Kho at home. Now, you do have some options on how to serve it, and the most common one is just with a side of banh mi to dip it in, or you could also serve it over rice. But today, we'll make it with these thick rice noodles. And I like my noodles al dente, so they take less than 10 seconds to cook in boiling water. And then it's time to assemble our bowl. We'll ladle in a generous amount of our Bo Kho, making sure to get a good mix of beef shank, tendon, and carrots. And then we'll garnish our bowl with some green onions and cilantro. And just like that, you've made pho Bo Kho at home. As always, the printable recipe is on my blog at feedthepudge.com. And if you've made it this far, let me know in the comment section, what's your favorite meal to warm up with? Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoy.